Hello, lovely community. I believe we are now live, so streaming on people's phones and computers around the world. So it's exciting because this is the second of such podcast interviews that Jaya Talent is doing and focusing a bit more on the engineering, technical side of our industry. And we are very pleased and would like to welcome Robin, who's here as a developer relations engineer or manager. Robin, you can help to clarify, and he's from Avail, which is a spin off of Polygon, focusing on data availability. I'm sure some of you will know about it, but I'll ask Robin, welcome, and would please give a little bit of introduction about yourself.
Hey, yeah, so glad to be here. As Dom kind of mentioned already, I am Robin. I work with Avail as developer relations engineer. We've got two DevRels on the team, so yeah, I mean, it kind of works like that. But yeah, I mean, so at Avail we do a bunch of things. We started off as a cutting edge DA, data availability layer, and we've been adding more offerings to our stack in terms of interop, where we currently allow apps to kind of get access to cross chain liquidity in a single click into their apps. So we're building a bunch of cool stuff around that, essentially allowing apps to scale seamlessly, beyond a single chain.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean that's something really quick about me.
Great.
I've been in the space for like since 2020, which is a bit of a okayish time, I think, to be in Web3. So yeah, I mean, glad to be here.
Before we get into perhaps like the importance of Avail as a product, how did you tell us a bit more about how you got into the company, what you were doing before, a little bit more about your career journey, because Jaya Talent, it's a talent agency, and the listeners will want to know what has been your career path, because like not everyone's career is linear, so it's
Mhm.
often up and down and to the left, to the right. So give us a sense of what led you to here.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see. So like back in 2020, I was like in my early university days, and it kind of there was this workshop or something that I saw that was related to blockchains. Back in the day, 2020, early. It wasn't the early days. Like there are a lot of OGs back from 2018 or like 2015 era, but like 2020 was like the beginning of DeFi summer, and yeah, I saw something about blockchains. I attended a few sessions. It seemed interesting, didn't click to me too much. Like I didn't really understand what it was all about. But then following that, I actually saw an opportunity with something called as IEEE. So it's like an engineering standards organization, and they had a volunteer position open to contribute to blockchain governance standards, and it was like an operations intern position. What I thought was like, hey, this could be a good opportunity to maybe like apply, maybe see if operations mean you don't really need to understand the tech itself. You can just be like on the background helping people out, to get things done, and meanwhile you can learn on the job, right? So that was my thought process, which resulted me in applying. Luckily I got in into that role. Again, it was a standards organization, so this was a working group that was trying to define blockchain governance standards from a lexical standpoint. And from there on, like the basically the two heads, so the co-heads of that working group were really great with mentors. And as soon as I joined in, like they realized like, okay, this guy wants to learn, so here are some reading materials you can look at. Here's like a structured reading list you can maybe look at to like get your knowledge up from 0 to 1. And from there I started reading a lot into like because I was working in the blockchain governance, it was more talking about like the crypto economics part of crypto, the incentives, penalties, disincentives. Why does Bitcoin or like Ethereum work from like an economical standpoint? Like why does like rewarding people to like a decentralized network of nodes or computers to mine Bitcoin, for example, and rewarding them for it, results in like more people trying to actually do that, and how does the reducing of supply kind of increases demand and all of that stuff. So getting that general idea of things kind of really got me fascinated about the concept. Like it's just something that you really don't hear, right? Like it's like a coordination game, and basically learning about game theory, coordination games, what creates a coordination fault. All of these things really uh, intrigued me into getting into the space. Like learning about basically the ideologies of the space was like got me like, hey, this could be a good alternative, or like a good way that society could ideally work, and the kind of technologies it is empowering could potentially, maybe not in the immediate future, but possibly in the long term future, might play out, right? So that got me more interested into like actually trying out the tech, because I was in my uni at that time and I had a lot of free time, obviously, and I was in it doing computer science. So I have a tech background, so I went into like actually going into code, trying to code in Solidity, learning how to build some dApps from the beginning. This is back in 2020, 2021.
Hmm.
And then I also basically then started writing about the things that I was learning, right? So like these things that I was doing, I really wanted to do this concept of learn in public, which really helped me out in the early days, wherein I was writing about the stuff I learned. And that got me actually a gig at Push Protocol. Now it's Push Chain, where they wanted me a content writer, right? And it was like my first paid gig back in
Yeah.
university, right? And from there on, again, now I'm getting into the weeds of DeFi. I'm actually writing protocol related content, getting a sense of how things work within within a
Mm.
DeFi org, and that helped me also like get into different communities, being active in those communities, Telegram groups, Discords back in those days.
Mhm.
NFTs as well was big at that time. Um, yeah, and all of
Okay.
those things. Yeah.
And so for anyone listening that has a similar background to yours or wants to get involved in a similar way, um, what was the factors at play for you to decide, okay, you want to go more towards the content, developer community, developer relations way, rather than hardcore engineering? Did you have to ask yourself this question at some point?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's like, especially if you are someone who has capabilities, or like or like have an interest in both sides of the coin. It's a question that you have to ask, and then you really have to ask yourself like, what are you really good at? What actually interests you? Like, do you want to spend all of your day writing code and like understanding or reading code, or like understanding protocol architecture, coding things out, or do you want to have like a multifaceted kind of a role, where one day you might be writing code, one day you might be helping people out debug stuff, one day you might be writing content or creating content? Like, what's the exact kind of ideal life you want to have, right? And at that point I decided, hey, I understand technical stuff, but I also can break down things quite easily, and I kind of enjoy it as well. So might as well like go down that path and see what sticks, right? Like see what I'm good at, see what I'm not good at. And that's how I actually joined Polygon, where they saw me like doing some of these stuff. They wanted me to help with their community. I joined their team and built out like the developer advocates program that they have. And yeah, so that was like my community building part of myself that I discovered. So I mean, that's so like you try different stuff, you see what you like, what you don't like. So yeah.
All right, and if we're moving to the current day, obviously Avail associated with Polygon, it's a brand, it's a name, it's a bigger organization. It has some like weight to it. So moving into that environment, did you need any sort of change in thinking, changing in work style? Did you have to adapt in some particular way that you didn't 3 years ago?
Um, I mean, sure. So my initial years was when I was in my university, so it was more of like a part-time thing. I could, like, obviously, it wouldn't take up all of my time. I wouldn't need to like do a lot of strategy work and stuff like that because I was part-time role. Doesn't really matter, right? Like you're doing what others tell you to do. But once you go fully deep into like a full-time role where the team actually relies on you for actually creating a strategy, creating a plan for it and then executing on that plan, things change. You have to be fully deep into all the kinds of conversation what the team actually wants from a longer term perspective of things. Those things, kinds of things kind of have changed. Obviously, like the way I think about things, my perspective on this industry, on how I think things work or things don't work, has really changed as you work in an org where you communicate with a lot of different uh, verticals within this industry. So yeah.
All right, and about those verticals, so maybe you can give the audience a sense of your function in the company. How does
Mhm.
it? What are the like one or two main KPIs that you need to work towards, and how does it fit with other departments like engineering, like product, like even marketing? Would love to. Would be great to know more about that.
Yeah, definitely. So DevRel as as a position is very hard to quantify in terms of a metric, is what I've come to understand because it's a very cross-functional role, and if you don't really track some of those smaller nuanced things that you do, it adds up, but you really don't. If you don't track it, you lose visibility on top a lot of things.
Mm.
So when it comes to like DevRel, I personally, when I initially joined the whale, I was within the marketing function, like within the marketing team, but I was cross-functionally working with the product and engineering team at that point, right? And then after, because we were like pre-mainnet at that point, so like we needed brand awareness, so we did a lot of brand, like top of the funnel things, if you want to call that. And then once we went mainnet, now it's the time to like get actual clients onboarded, and that means I moved to a more middle of the funnel where like, okay, marketing team takes care of top of the funnel. Now I'm in like the integration and solution engineering team, so I was transported into like the product team, further which I was into the solutions engineering team, where now we have to help with integrations, making sure like clients are able to integrate with our product, and if they're having any issues, help them out, maybe help with documentation, maybe create content or guides on how they can like do certain things in a recommended way, and those are the kind of things I think I currently take care of. Initially, it was more of like in terms of KPIs, I was doing a lot of events, writing docs, and more people facing things, but mostly on a marketing standpoint, right? And at that point, the KPI is how can we get the brand out there as much as possible. And then once we are in like the solutions engineering side of things,
Mhm.
like how many teams have we unblocked, um, are their teams getting blocked because of something like within the docs, or if something is not clear yet, how do we unblock them moving forward so that other teams don't, like how do we document it on our docs somewhere so that they don't fall, like face the same issues again. um, Things along those lines. What I've also noticed, like, is that for engineering, it is, they don't really have to care about the social aspect of things. Like they just have to rely on like what the product team tells them to code. They build it out within a sprint or two, and like it's based on sprints, right? Like you have a few tasks to write, to do, to code out a feature that you need to kind of provide, and you do it within sprints, and that's done. If you're not able
Yes.
to do it, like you can troubleshoot and do stuff like that. But there's no
Mhm.
social aspect to it. It's like, just here's your task, get it done. Here's your task, get it done.
Yeah.
Marketing is a lot of strategy building. Like, okay, there's a lot of noise on Twitter right now. Not only on Twitter, but like, there's PR, there's events, there's um, anything else that surrounds marketing, like branding, like narrative
Mm.
building.
Yeah.
And how do we exactly quantify all of that? Like, is probably like, okay, now we've got tools like Kaito that kind of quantifies your mind share as a number, or like the
Okay.
number of tappers you have. So things like that usually
Yeah.
plays a
So
role.
how do you quantify all that? If somebody has to say this is important, this isn't important.
So for DevRel, I think it's more of like what does your community look like, right? Like, what is the like, what amount of people do you think you have that can, even without you being present, will probably defend your like your product or company? Are there any
Mm.
loyalists within there?
Yes.
From a more quantifiable perspective, it would be more like, mm, I don't really like to play the numbers game. Like, numbers game usually does not work in Web3 because there's a lot of Sybil issues. People want airdrops and stuff. So
Sure.
like your Discord numbers, your Telegram numbers, like that really doesn't matter. I really think that sometimes having those people who will show up for your developer meetups, where you are building relations with these people, um, obviously might not result into something quantifiable right now, but because you got those relations, when they need something that Avail could provide, they usually come to you and be like, hey guys, we're exploring something like this. We thought you could, you guys would be a good fit for this. Would you want to start a conversation, right? Those kind of things. What are the kind of leads, BD leads, that we can like provide help with,
Mm.
bring to the BD team? Or like, if BD leads, like if the BD team has got like a couple of leads and they want a team to like demo things out for
Yes.
them to like visualize how we kind of work, like what suppose for Nexus, what we have is like an interoperability toolkit. So
Yes.
we reach out to apps, and like the BD team reaches out to apps. They're like, hey, you guys have XYZ product, but you don't have like access to cross-chain liquidity. Like, would you be interested in that? And then they reach out to the DevRel team, where we probably help out building out a demo, or like going over suggested solutions on how it would look like in a perfect world if our Nexus product was integrated into their app. And they get
Mhm.
an idea of, great, oh, this is interesting, so I would like to have this, and let's
Yeah.
go ahead. And the BD team
Yeah.
takes over. So we kind of we're like a support function for that. So
For anyone thinking to move into developer relations, because maybe they have a little bit, they study computer science, they have more like extroverted personality, they like writing content, they understand coding, but don't want to be a coder and an engineer, or maybe not for long. So for those sort of people, what would you say separates like someone who's going to be like good at the job, like okay as a developer relations engineer, and then someone who's going to be excellent? What are the a few things that will separate the good from the great?
yeah, I think the major difference is how well can you code. uh, is the major differentiator here. The idea being that only if you code, you actually understand the problems of that the developer
Right.
faces. Only then can
Right.
you build tools and experiences that enhance it for the developer, right? Obviously
Yeah.
there's different facets to developer relations. So like, even within
Mm-hmm.
developer relations, there's like DevX, that's developer experience part. There's
Mm-hmm.
developer advocacy, so you're probably the content creator kind of person, like advocacy. There's another kind of person who's like the community evangelist. Like, he's really great, he or she's like really great at building a community, building that following. They've got a great presence on Twitter or any other platform where like your company wants to be at. And they are really good at rallying people up for a cause, right? And
Makes
there's
sense.
different kinds of people, but the common fact is, you need to understand the technicals of things. So that means you need to understand code. If you don't really understand it, then you're not able to do your job as well. So like, even if you're a content creator and like a
Yeah.
community guy, or even a DevX guy,
Mm-hmm.
whatever hat you wear, or all of the hats you wear, if you need to understand
Yes.
exactly what the company does, and how can you unblock people.
Makes sense. And then so the DApp developers, do they then take you more seriously and they are more yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, right? Like, because it's more about like, would internally the team be confident enough to bring you on some of these client calls? Are
Mhm.
they able to like trust you with maybe an integration demo that they
Mm.
want the client to see, like, hey, how would this work? So like, would they come to you with something where you can like code something out really quickly, or like showcase it to them? Because that's part of the job, right? Like, you really need to help out the BD funnel. But again, if you're a non-technical person, they're not going to come to you. You're only tasked with like creating content, which is fine as well. But then
Yes.
you're more of like a content creator than just being a DevRel. You're just doing
Yeah.
the rel part of things than the dev. I mean, which is also fine. But yeah, if you want to demarcate like the best from good, that's the difference there, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's like if I'm selling like trading software and I used to be a trader, I think the customers would
yeah.
take me more seriously and be more interested. Um, all right, and I had another question. It's just kind of skipped my mind. But what would be next for you in your career? Would you be looking to move into a management role? And maybe your boss is listening right now. What's next for you?
um yeah, I mean, I'm still figuring out a lot of things as I speak. Right now it's been like 2 years, or 2 to 3 years as a DevRel. um I mean, if I try to look at it from a very objective point of view, maybe 3 years down the line, being able to manage a team, possibly like uh, you know yeah, I mean, managing a team, being like a head uh, of XYZ
Hmm.
position, or maybe even specializing into like one of the multiple aspects that I kind of already spoke about, right? Like,
Yes, yes.
there's integrations, there's community, there's content, maybe
Maybe
even
product.
specializing in uh, what?
Would you go into product? Would you want to go into maybe product?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, there's different aspects of that I
Mm.
would be interested in. There's other aspects I wouldn't be. I don't want to be fully into code all the time. I
Sure. Yeah.
enjoy doing a lot of the other front facing, like external facing stuff. So I don't really want to be like an internal facing person.
Yes.
I enjoy like being on these podcasts, creating some content as well on the side, meanwhile helping out internally in some of these
Mhm.
other aspects. So
Okay.
yeah, I really want to figure out where those, where it'll take me. I'm still on that journey of figuring things out, as everyone is, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, being able to like, I really enjoy kind of organizing and executing stuff. So maybe a management role would
Yes.
be perfect for me. But yeah, that's something to probably think about in a few years time. Yeah.
I remember the question. It was about the recruitment process at, at Avail. Um, did you need to create any sort of task or respond to a task? Was it coding based? And then also like what can people expect for a recruiting process in a developer when they're applying for excuse me for a DevRel role.
Right. So if for Avail, yeah, I mean, it was a couple of years ago, and I was, so because Avail was spun out of Polygon, I already had a rapport with some of the team members, so it was mostly just talking to them and aligning on a bunch of things. But usually at DevRel interviews, what you would see is, you would have an initial talk, and there's usually some kind of a technical assignment. Some teams do it, some don't. It's usually dependent on what kind of like role that they're looking for. If they're looking for a deeply technical person, they would have a technical thing, like a round happening, I guess. And if they're not, they're usually fine as long as you understand some of the things that you really want, that they really want, right? So as I mentioned, when I initially joined, I was like in the marketing function of things, so they really didn't want a too someone who's too technical. But then eventually you progress into that technical role, as required by the team, right? So at that point, so I mean, usually there's like this, hiring manager, technical round, maybe you do like a peer programming stuff probably, and then you move on to like maybe culture or people ops or whatever you have after that, and then negotiations. But yeah, I guess. You're muted, by the way.
Oh, yeah. So I think now we can move on to some more fun questions, followed
Mhm.
by the community Q&A, and the questions will pop up on the screen here on the bottom. So first question: are you a morning or night person?
I am mostly a night person. I usually like to. I mean, I do wake up. Not pretty early, but like in a normal like time, 8:30, 9 a.m. Like that would be late for most people, I think, in a corporate job setting. But for my day, like my work day usually starts from noon, because I usually work with people who are across the globe. So my time zone, like my meetings are usually in my evenings, like from 5 p.m. to like 8 p.m. or
Mm-hmm.
5 to 9 p.m.s. So doesn't really matter if I'm awake at like 6 a.m. in the morning. Like I still have to log in and do work at like 9 p.m. So it doesn't really match, right? So like I try to start my day in terms at like 12 uh, p.m. and then try to work until like the end of the day and then
Yeah.
repeat. So I usually have late mornings and like late nights is
Okay.
what I kind of do. Yeah.
Tea or coffee?
Hard question. Hard question because uh, I prefer my chai, but when I'm abroad, like usually, like at home, I prefer chai, but when I'm outside, I prefer coffee. If you want
All
to,
right.
like that, yeah.
And do you prefer salaries in crypto or fiat?
Uh, I have had trouble with crypto, like off ramping crypto
In
until
India,
like
yeah.
probably this year. Like this year, things have gotten better. Like I shifted to Dubai, so it's much
Yeah.
easier. Back in India, it was much harder to like get things in crypto. So I would prefer fiat at that point, but now crypto. So depends
Mhm.
where you are.
In office work or work from home?
Work from home with an ideal maybe 2 to 3 months, 2 to 3 days a month at the office, maybe like just to show your face and be like,
Mhm. Yeah, that's always a good idea, just to
yeah.
keep the connection with your team.
I mean, yeah, yeah. If because I'm like my company, my team's office is right here. That's why I can pop in anytime. Otherwise, work from home always.
If you could choose a superpower for your developer community, would it be either to be able to like instantly squash bugs, coding bugs, or teleport to any hackathon in the world?
My superpower or
The community, the superpower for your developer community.
oh, okay. I would say squashing bugs. I mean, once the bugs are squashed, you see applications dwell, right? So
Yeah.
hackathons you can do anywhere, so it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. And what's more satisfying for you? Seeing your favorite meme coin appear in the Discord channel, or watching someone fork your code and shipping
Fork and chip.
it? Meme coins are not so cool anymore.
No.
Um, let's see what else I've got here. Oh yeah, okay. So like when you're giving a developer or community feedback, do you prefer like long explanations or just like short yes no snippets?
I prefer long so that you actually understand what they're thinking of, like why, what they've tried, what they think should happen, what does not happen according to them, like what the problem is. Like getting that entire context, it really helps, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Yeah, the context helps. Detail. It's the devil's in the detail.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can move now on to community questions. Anyone in the audience has anyone to ask Robin about his career, about Avail, Polygon, about anything that we discussed today? There we go. How important is DevRel for someone just learning Solidity or Rust?
DevRel in what sense? Like to become a DevRel?
For someone just learning. I'm not exactly sure of the premise either. Like, do they know already Solidity or Rust and they're looking to get into DevRel? Maybe let's try that perspective. They're
All right.
learning Solidity. They're learning already.
All right. So, I mean, if you want to get into a DevRel role, obviously you need to know Solidity. If you're trying to get into the EVM ecosystem, Rust is more beneficial maybe in Solana ecosystem or like in more infra-facing projects or protocols. Like Avail is built on Rust, so having some level of knowledge on Rust is really helpful. But I would say it's not only just important to learn a language. Learning a language is fine, but you need to understand the general like where the general space is, the space of this Web3 space is heading, why are we doing these things. Like understanding those really goes a long way. Like people are talking about stable coins nowadays. Like why
Yes.
why does stable coin matter? Like
Yeah.
how can we kind of empower maybe our protocol to kind of be in that space if possible, right? So being able to understand that is much more important than like just learning a language. Like
Nice.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
But not just learning language, but tying it to outcomes related to dApps and business outcomes, basically.
Yep.
Next question. How do you see the role of DevRel evolving with more AI and automation and developer tooling? That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already saying it today. Right now, before it used to be more menial tasks that we had to do. Now AI automates some of those things, right? Like if you want to create like a demo, for example, right? You had to initially start from scratch. Now you can just get like the boilerplate ready by AI, and then you just integrate XYZ stuff of your protocol into that boilerplate, right? You don't have to really or do things from scratch if you have an idea on what you're doing, right? Even when it comes to docs, we understand that developers are using AI to build stuff. They're vibe coding a lot of things. So having your docs being AI friendly is really important. So your DevRel role kind of looks like how can you enable or like make life easier for these devs using AI for building projects, right? And at that point, you need to understand how LLMs are work. How can you optimize things? How does MCP servers work? And how can you help developers use your product in those lines as well, right? So I think it evolves into like understanding tech. Like at the end of the day, you have to be curious enough to understand different tech and what those advancements in tech is, and adapt accordingly. And that's the role of a developer, right? You're the first person who has to kind of bridge engineering and marketing, I guess. So you're like that first line of the first line of defense, I think, for your company. So, yeah.
First line of defense. Nice one. Next question. How can experienced engineers influence or shape the roadmap of protocols through DevRel feedback loops?
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. So what DevRels generally do is they get external feedback from clients, right? Like experienced engineers. Uh, if you're asking if experienced engineers become DevRels and they are part of that DevRel feedback loop, I think they'll be able to give a more nuanced. They have a more nuanced understanding of the problems and the issues that these clients or developers are facing, and they're able to maybe provide a feedback on what exactly can be done to even fix that XYZ problem. Otherwise, you would probably give so you can give the feedback back to the product team, but then it's up to the product team to kind of maybe implement a solution. But if you're very much experienced and know what you're doing, you can be part of that,
Mm.
process of improving the product, which is also key.
So
So you
your
can,
feedback goes to product, and then product speaks to engineering. You don't give the feedback directly to engineering, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, technically, yes.
Technically, but officially. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. How do you balance between listening to community feedback versus pushing forward technical vision? Nice one.
All right. So community feedback is usually things that we've already pushed out, right? So these are things that already been worked upon for a number of months, probably, and people are giving feedback for those things. Maybe adding features, maybe not needing features, etc. Maybe things are buggy. We need to fix that, optimizing stuff. That's usually the kind of community feedback you get. Whereas pushing forward technical vision is, I would say, like you've got, as a company, you've got an entire roadmap of things that you probably want to do, and this product is just one part of that, right? And your technical vision can be like, it can be mutually exclusive, I think, unless the community feedback really points to the fact that this roadmap does not really make sense. And at that point you have to listen to the community and like make changes in your vision, on like what do the people actually really need. Like for example, like in terms of interop, in there is a time where we initially started off with like zk aggregation based interop, which is cool and all, it works, we've done it, we've got a very ambitious roadmap. But we also realized that people, like intents work fine and people are fine with intent solver mechanisms. And so we decided, because zk based solutions have a huge latency issue, and we want to go to market faster because of community feedback, we started off
Yes,
with an intent based approach to go to market faster, but we still have this technical vision of
very
zkifying
cool.
things in the future. And in the medium term we're probably going to do te based stuff so that we don't have too much of an issue. So like we will listen to community feedback to like get things out to the community as fast as possible, but we still have that ideal version of the world that we want to live in, and kind of work around that.
Fantastic. Okay, a bit of push, bit of pull. I
Yeah.
think we can do one more question. Where do you see the biggest gaps between developer needs and what current Web3 ecosystems provide?
Hmm. um I think we have a good amount of tooling already within Web3 ecosystems, especially within EVM ecosystem. I haven't really tried out like Solana or the Move ecosystem too much, so I can't comment on that. I think when it comes to developer needs, we have a bunch of really cool tools to try things out, test things out. I don't see a yeah, I don't see too much of a gap. I think it's more of like, um, certain projects may not invest a lot of time into certain aspect of things, like maybe their docs are not that great, right? So it's more about not ecosystems, I would say, but certain projects within ecosystems, their docs are not that great. So that time, at that point when developers want to integrate it, they face an issue, or maybe their support team is not as responsive, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
those kind of low hanging fruits, which you can fix quite easily but people don't
Yes,
pay too much attention to, are probably the biggest needs and gaps that I would see. Which if people fill, you become like one of the best teams, I would say.
then
Support and
maybe need to create some AI chat support and co-pilots.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think let's wrap up. I think we covered some very nice topics. Your career, your background, how you got into Avail, and a lot of detail around what you're actually doing and the developer needs and the ecosystem at large. So thank you very much for your time, and everybody in the discussion and the community for your excellent questions. We hope that you found this very valuable. We will be editing this conversation and then publishing this conversation for people to review and to catch up. So that's it for now. Thank you, Robin, for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was great fun talking here. So
likewise, have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.